The engagement party was supposed to be perfect. Crystal chandeliers glowed over the marble hall, and the city's richest guests gathered to celebrate Victor Hale, the self-made millionaire, and his much younger fiancée, Elena. Smiles filled the room, but beneath the luxury, something unseen was about to change everything. Victor stood confidently beside Elena, accepting congratulations. He had built his empire from nothing and trusted no one easily. Elena, elegant and observant, watched the crowd quietly. She had noticed something strange all evening, an unsettling feeling she couldn't explain, as if fate itself was hovering nearby. As the party continued, a catering assistant passed by carrying a tray of glasses. Elena froze. Her heart skipped a beat. She stared at the young man's face, his sharp jawline, his eyes, the familiar curve of his brow. She turned slowly to Victor and whispered, "He looks like your lost son." Victor's smile vanished. The room seemed to fall silent to him. Years ago, his infant son had disappeared during a chaotic hospital evacuation after a fire. Despite endless searches, the child was never found. The loss had hardened Victor's heart and shaped his life forever. "That's impossible," Victor said sharply, but his eyes betrayed doubt. He looked again at the young waiter. The resemblance was undeniable. It was like staring into the past, into the face of the child he had mourned for decades. His hands trembled as memories flooded back. Elena felt a strange pull toward the young man. She excused herself and approached him gently. "What's your name?" she asked. Startled, the waiter replied, "My name is Leo, ma'am." His voice was calm, respectful, unaware of the storm he had triggered. Victor joined them, his voice unsteady. "Where were you born?" Leo hesitated, then said he grew up in foster homes. He had no records of his parents, only a hospital bracelet kept by his first caretaker. Victor's breath caught in his throat. Without a word, Victor rushed to his private study and returned with an old photograph. He held it beside Leo's face. The guests gasped. The resemblance was shocking, nearly identical. Murmurs rippled through the hall as disbelief turned into awe. Elena placed a hand on Victor's arm. "You should do a DNA test," she said softly. Leo looked overwhelmed, unsure if this was some kind of cruel joke. Victor nodded. For the first time in years, fear and hope battled in his eyes. Days later, the results arrived. Victor, Elena, and Leo sat in silence as the doctor spoke. "The test confirms it," he said. "Leo is your biological son." Victor broke down instantly. Tears streamed down his face as decades of grief finally found release. Leo didn't know how to react. He had lived his entire life believing he was unwanted. Now, suddenly, he was the heir to a fortune and the son of a powerful man. Victor stood, walked toward him, and embraced him tightly, whispering, "I'm so sorry it took so long." But the shock wasn't over. During a private conversation, Elena revealed something unexpected. She admitted she had recognized Leo earlier, not just from resemblance, but because she had once volunteered at the same hospital during the fire years ago. She remembered a baby being secretly taken away. Elena confessed that the hospital staff had covered up the incident to avoid scandal. The baby had been declared missing, but in truth he had been handed off illegally. Elena had tried to report it back then, but her voice was silenced. Victor was furious but grateful. Without Elena's courage and honesty, he would have lost his son forever. The engagement party that began as a celebration of wealth had turned into a reunion written by destiny itself. Victor publicly introduced Leo as his son. The guests stood in stunned silence. Then applause erupted. Leo, once invisible, was now acknowledged, but Victor made one thing clear. "He is not my heir because of money," he said. "He is my son because of blood and love." In the weeks that followed, Victor postponed the wedding. Rumors spread, but the truth was simple. Victor needed time to rebuild a bond stolen from him. Elena stood by his side, proving she cared more about truth than status. Leo chose not to leave his job immediately. He wanted to learn, slowly, who he was and where he came from. Victor respected that. He began teaching Leo about life, not business, sharing memories, regrets, and the love he had saved for decades. Months later, Victor hosted another gathering, smaller and warmer. This time, it wasn't about wealth. It was about family. Leo stood beside Victor and Elena, no longer lost, no longer alone. And as Victor looked at his son, he realized that the greatest fortune he had ever gained wasn't built with money, but returned to him through fate, truth, and the courage of a woman who dared to speak up.